And joining us now is Alberto Fernandez, EWTN News Contributor. Alberto, thank you for joining us today. We appreciate it. The FBI now says that this was an act of terrorism and it was, quote, 100% inspired by the Islamic State. For those who may not know that much about ISIS, tell us a little bit more about the terror group.
Well, of course, ISIS is an offshoot of Al-Qaeda, which came to fame in about a decade ago when it broke off from Al-Qaeda and, set up a state in what is now Syria and Iraq, which it held on for some years until it was defeated and kind of scattered, but it's still very active worldwide. It still commits terrorist acts. It committed a terrible terrorist act in Moscow last year and continues to kill Christians in Africa almost every day. So it's a deadly, deadly jihadist organization which has been blunted but not destroyed.
Yeah, obviously. And there were initial reports that the suspect's vehicle was spotted crossing the U.S. southern border days prior to this attack, leading some, including President-elect Trump, to surmise that the suspect was an illegal immigrant. But turns out he was actually a U.S. Army veteran from Texas. Alberto, that said, how does someone go from serving their country to become radicalized?
Well, unfortunately, it's not the first time we've seen that. We had the notorious case of U.S. Army Major Nidal Hassan in 2009 in Fort Hood that killed a bunch of service members, also inspired by jihadism, inspired by Al-Qaeda at the time. And in fact, the guy that inspired him was an American citizen born in the United States, Anwar al-Awlaki. So the fact that you were born in the U.S. doesn't mean that you wouldn't be an extremist. There's something in the literature and among experts which is called second-generation immigrant jihadism or second-generation immigrant radicalization. So service members can be subject to any kind of influence, leftist, rightist, jihadist, and unfortunately, as I said, we've seen this before.
Yeah, we have. What do you make of the timing of this attack in New Orleans during New Year's celebrations?
Well, of course, ISIS, or the Islamic State, way back in 2016, called on its supporters to use truck ramming operations against the infidels. And in fact, we saw this in Europe. We saw this in France. We saw this in Sweden, in Germany, in Barcelona, Spain, 2016, 2017. So unfortunately, it's come to our shores, and there have been other efforts to do this in the United States in the past. This is unfortunately has been the worst one that we've seen.
Yeah, absolutely. Alberto, thank you so much for coming on and for your expertise. We appreciate it.
Thank you.